But either way, review time. So, if you don't know how I do my reviews, I have four categories. We have graphics slash atmosphere. I beat Nemi first try. Damn, dude, that's fucking awesome. Fucking hype for you. That's pretty fucking cool. GG's to Visual Cocktail. I'll have to check the VOD later. That's pretty awesome, dude. But, I have four categories. We have graphics slash atmosphere, sound design, gameplay, and story. And I basically give them scores on each of those factors, and we plug it into the calculator here, and it gives us an average score. And that's the rating for the game. So let's start with graphics. So this was a PS2 game, and I did emulate it, so that's something to note here when I'm giving my review here of the graphics themselves. So just, take, I guess, the graphics part with like a grain of salt, because I actually don't know how the game would have looked on like an actual PS2, on like, a CRTV or whatever. So I can't fully say what my honest thoughts would be. I can only give my reviews of, what the emulator looks like. That said, pretty decent graphics for the most part. Didn't really have too much issue. The character models were fine. Even though a lot of the enemies, like sound-wise, were very fucking awful and goofy. Graphics-wise, they were fine. I didn't really have any issues with like textures or like anything like that. Everything looked fine to me. The atmosphere was okay. It definitely had like a horror atmosphere to it, but it was definitely ruined by the sound. Like, we're gonna get into the sound design, but the sound was fucking terrible, and it definitely ruined the atmosphere a lot of the times. But we'll get into that. But just in terms of graphics, it was like a solid like 8, I would say. But unfortunately, the atmosphere was ruined by the sound. So by default, I have to dock a point because, man, there was like some cool scenes. There was like some really interesting like horror-ish looking environments and scary things to be seen. So I'm gonna say a solid 7 for the graphics slash atmosphere. If it wasn't for that sound ruining the atmosphere, it would have been an 8, but man, that leads us into the sound design. Sound design, oh boy. Let's start with the positives here. A lot of good tracks, a lot of really good music in this game. I enjoyed listening to a lot of the songs. Very enjoyable to listen to in that regard. Trying to think of other positives here. I think that's where the positives end. Yeah, definitely good music. However, this is where all the negatives roll in. Horrible sound design in general besides the music. Stock sound effects, yes, stock sound effects. Just terrible sounds for enemies, like those really tall ladies that burp. I was like, what the fuck is this? The fucking dogs that like make bear sounds. Just horrible. Awful sound design besides the music. Just terrible across the board. The music at least gives this shit like 4 points. 4 points. I can't even speak right now. 4 points. So that's what it gets. A 4 out of 10 for sound design. Like, absolutely terrible. Yeah. I got nothing positive to say. The ear rape of, like, when ghosts get close to you, it's just, oh my god. I don't ever want to hear that sound effect ever again. Like, it wasn't necessarily a bad sound effect. It was just like that coupled with like the fucking bear sounds and the burping and actually it might get points for the voice acting, maybe. I'm trying to think, was there any good voice acting in the game? Henry was awful. Henry's voice acting was terrible. Eileen was okay. I'll give it like a point, because there was some good voice acting in there, so we'll say a 5 for audio overall. 5 out of 10. Because some of the voice acting wasn't bad, but Henry was awful. Henry was just, ugh. Dude sounded like he was on anti-depressants the whole fucking time. It was just bad. Gameplay. This is the part that's probably going to surprise people. The actual gameplay itself, and I'm not talking about like objective to objective, I'm not talking like all the tedious shit, you know? I'm not talking about like, you know, having to kill like, well, not that I really killed many enemies, but having to kill like, you know, the same copy and paste enemies in like these different rooms and shit. I'm not even talking about that. The gameplay itself, like the actual mechanics, I didn't think they were that bad. They were okay. I thought I was gonna hate it, like when I was watching it, you know, like you just kind of stand in place and like bonk over and over. Like that's how I really pictured the game. But after like I got really used to the controls and I started playing it more, I actually didn't really mind it. It worked pretty well. Yeah, I didn't really mind the gameplay in that aspect. I liked the controls. I hated it at first, like holding R2 and then like hitting X to attack. I thought that was a little weird, but I don't know. I ended up liking it at the end. It's not too bad. I like the heavy attacks. The dodging sucks, I'll be honest about that. Like, the dodging's terrible. Like, you might as well not even try to dodge. Like, just take hits, you know? Just fucking iframe skip and you're good. I think the only part about the actual, like, gameplay or, like, combat that I have to subtract points for, just objectively, is the fact that, in most of these instances, like, as you're going through the game, you're forced to do the iframe skip, but then again, I'm playing on hard, so I don't actually know, like, how the game's actually intended to play, because we did a lot of cheese. I did a glitch, plus, like, iframe skips and all that shit. So, but anyway, it almost feels like you have to do that stuff to really get past a lot of the shit, or just simply run past it, which I guess is a viable option. But yeah, I really didn't mind the combat. Now, everything else, like moving with the stick and like selecting stuff and the fucking HUD, absolutely horrible. I mean, the inventory screen is just terrible. I don't know what they could have done to make it better, but it was like really jank to really navigate that shit. I could not, for the love of me, fully get on board with that at all. Not even for a second. I'm trying to think of if there's anything else I want to say about the gameplay here. Oh, I actually did enjoy the very early beginnings of the game. Like, I enjoyed, like, doing all the worlds one by one. I actually enjoyed that. But where the game lost me was when I had to go back with Eileen and bring her through. That shit ruined the game for me. I actually enjoyed the game a good bit up until that point. Once Eileen came into play, it was over. Talk about the level design and the way you path around to complete objectives. Not all the levels are bad. I would say most of them are bad. But I can't sit here and say that all the levels are bad. Like, Forest World wasn't too bad. It was definitely, like, the most least confusing level. Like, Subway World, like, how dare they start you in fucking Subway World where there's just so much, like, so many places to get lost in that first area. And then Forest World was, like, pretty fucking linear, but, like, it wasn't bad. It was okay. Like, it didn't look great. It was kind of stupid how, like, this forest was, like, split up by fences. You had to, like, go through doors. Like, that was dumb. But, I mean, it wasn't necessarily, like, a bad level. Building World, I'm trying to think. I actually like Building World. Oddly enough. I liked the, all, like, the little stores you go into. I like, you know, how, like, you go into, like, the sporting store. I liked the bar that you go into. Oh, yeah, I keep forgetting about Water Prison. Yeah, Water Prison was trash. That was 100% awful. There's nothing redeeming about Water Prison. Water Prison is just bad. But yeah, Building World I actually liked. For the most part, I didn't really have an issue with Building World. Oh yeah, the monkey enemies. I forgot about them, too. The monkey enemies are pretty fucking awful. But yeah, Building World, it's okay. It's not a bad level. Apartment World. I mean, there's really not much to say about it. It's just an apartment. It was better the first time around, but then by the end, like the last level, we're gonna get to hospital, don't worry. But by the second go around of Apartment World, it was pretty bad in terms of, like, navigating. Like, the fact that you had to, like, explore all these rooms, it kind of harkened to Hospital World a little bit. It got a little bit, like, reminiscent of that, like, having to go in all these fucking rooms just to figure out, like, where the hell you're going. Hospital World. Where do I start with Hospital World? Here's the only thing I'm going to say about Hospital World. This is all I'm going to say about it. Okay. The part with the hallway, with the wheelchairs, we all know what I'm going to say here, is by far the best game design I've ever... Nah, I'm just kidding. I'm totally fucking joking. Absolutely horrible. Like, that whole area, that hallway, quite possibly the worst thing I've seen in any video game. Hands down. 100%. It's literally just a hallway with a million doors that you go in, and they just have random shit in each one. Sometimes you get lucky, you know, sometimes, like, there's loot. And you literally have to go in each one. So you have to find the key, and then you have to go in random doors. You have to go in random doors until you find Eileen. And right when you find Eileen, that's when the game goes downhill. That's when you start suffering. That's when all the pain and misery starts rolling in. That's when the game gets really bad. Is when you hit Eileen. So not only do you play a horrible section in a level, but then you get smacked in the face with Eileen. In the same level. They put Eileen in the same fucking spot. That's the worst goddamn level. I just threw something. I was like picking shit out of my teeth. I threw my fucking toothpick. Because it actually makes me mad, to be honest. Just thinking about it. They fucking put Eileen in the worst goddamn level in fucking gaming history. Yes, I said it. Gaming history. If I play a worse level, I'll retract my statement. But as of right now, from what I've played, literally the worst level in any game I've ever played. 100%. There were levels in Gollum that were better than that shit. In fact, I'd rather play Gollum than to ever do that again. That's how bad that was. But only that level. I wouldn't play Gollum over, like, you know, Building World or some shit. So yeah. The game got ruined once you had to escort Eileen. That wasn't cool. Eileen sucks. Having to escort her sucks. Escort missions in most games are terrible. So the fact that they give you an escort gameplay mechanic, where you have to escort a crippled woman who just limps really slowly, and the only weapon she has is a fucking handbag, which the only time she ever fucking used that goddamn handbag was when I wanted to die. I was actually trying to die, and she came up to me, hit me with the fucking handbag. Or no, I'm sorry, hit the enemy with the handbag and stunned them. That was the only time she ever used it, when I was trying to die. There was one more thing I want to say about gameplay. The guns actually felt good. I enjoyed using the handgun and the revolver, especially at the end. They felt powerful. You know, it felt nice busting a fucking cap at some of these enemies. The ghosts. Let's talk about the ghosts. I don't hate the ghosts as much as I thought I was going to. And I'll tell you why. The ghosts, as annoying as they were, it was optional. Sure, I am probably forced to kill one, I think. I think there was one ghost you had to kill to get like a key or whatever. But besides him, you can fucking ignore all of them. Yeah, it's harder. It's a lot harder. But I did it. I mean, I think I killed, what, like 2 or 3 ghosts or some shit? One I was told to kill, but I didn't have to kill him. But I didn't know that at the time. And in hindsight, I wish I didn't kill him, because I wish I would have beaten the game without touching a single ghost, except for the one I had to kill. But that said, I didn't mind the ghosts. They added some tension, some suspense, you know, to the gameplay. Kind of made you really calculate and think about your next move. But they were annoying, for sure. I think the last thing I want to say about gameplay... has to be the room itself. I understand it's centered around the entire game, but having to go back in there, and the game expects you to apparently, like, cleanse the fucking room anytime a haunting happens? Fuck you. No. I am not doing that shit. I'm not cleansing anything. I'm not touching anything. I'm not cleansing shit. As long as I can get to the save book and then back to the hole, I don't give a fuck. I'm not cleansing anything. I don't care enough about this game to, to cleanse my room. I don't care about the ending, the good ending, whatever it is. I don't care about it enough. And actually, from what 16 told me, all the shit you have to do just to even, like, to even have a snowball's chance at getting a good ending, you have to do all this crazy shit. And one of them being you have to cleanse your room. And like Eileen can't take damage or something. What, like, why? Why is all that necessary? Like, imagine how many times people have probably had to, like, let themselves die or reload their game because Eileen got randomly hit by the random enemies that just do random fucking things. Can you imagine? There's no fucking shot that that's actually how you do it. I mean, I haven't looked into it. I'm just taking what he said, but that's unreal to me. So that takes off some points because they shouldn't make obtaining the good ending so increasingly impossible compared to just getting a ending. Like, why would you ever go for the good ending unless, I don't know, you just want to gloat? It's not even like achievements were a part of this shit back in the day, you know? Like, there were no trophies, there were no achievements, nothing. So why even do it? Do you, unlock something? Is there something I don't know? I'd love someone to tell me. Can't think of anything else. I guess I could talk about puzzles, I guess. Just a flex in 04. I guess. Flex to yourself in your fucking bedroom. And then all your friends would be like, why the fuck did you play this game? Who cares? A lot of the puzzles in this game, if you can even call them puzzles, were sort of like nonsensical in a lot of ways. So you spend a good chunk in the beginning of the game. Fuck yeah, I got good ending in SH4. Fuck me, baby. It's like, oh, and then, hang on, actually, before we get into puzzles, the fucking doll. The fucking doll. Just by picking up the fucking doll, you're fucked for the rest of the game? Tell me how that makes any sense. Literally the entire game leading up to that point, okay, you're picking up random objects. Like, you're picking up random garbage that completes puzzles, that solves puzzles, like, that open shit. Like, that's what you do. You pick up random garbage. So picking up a doll, you would never think, hey, this is gonna fuck me over. And the fact that you can't even drop anything, like the fact that there's no way to even back out of that, is absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. So the puzzles. A lot of the puzzles were super nonsensical. Like you spend a majority of the start of the game getting all these plaques, like 4 plaques or whatever. And you just find them in random locations on doors, throughout the game. And then once you get them, that's it. You're just left to kind of figure it out. And that's like the majority of this game. Like, you're just figuring out what to do next. Which, is classical game design, I would say. But it got to a point where there was, like, no rhyme or reason for it, Like, they could have at least... And this is my critique with, like, so many games that are like this. At least have, like, a note, that kind of alludes to it, or, like, something. Or, maybe there was. I don't know. I think there was actually a note that, like, mentioned, like, the 4 placards or whatever, opening, like, a gate or some shit. And that's fine, but it never in a million years mentioned the fucking laundry room. It wasn't like, hey, play, you know. And I'm not saying it has to. Just at least, like, give someone some direction somewhere, somehow. Grab stuff, figure it out. Puzzles pretty much don't exist. Yeah. That's basically. There really is no puzzles in the game. That's actually true. They just want you to replay the game multiple times. That's a fair point. Yeah, that's true. I guess I have to take that into perspective too, because this came out back during a time where you actually did play games over and over again. Back on PS2 days when, you know, people played games, they played them over and over again. That's what I did as a kid. I played plenty of old games over and over again. That's just what you did. So, you know, replayability was definitely a thing. So I could see that. That's a fair point there. Okay. So maybe I won't hold the doll against the game. It's still shit, but I'm not gonna hold it against it fully. This all said, this is a long segment, by the way, because there's a lot to talk about, like with the gameplay. Trying to think if there's anything else I want to say about gameplay before we move on to story. I think that's it. I gotta give gameplay a solid... Oh man, I'm torn between two ratings here. I had 4.5. I was torn between two ratings, so I had to give it a 4.5. No, I actually... See, this is what you don't understand, is I actually did enjoy the combat for the most part. Like, I enjoyed how it handled. It wasn't really like a deal breaker to me. What was a deal breaker was everything else surrounding the combat. Yes, a 4.5. I had way more negatives in there than I ever did positives, Patrick. There was a lot of negatives in there. It was only bumped up because I did enjoy the combat. So I gave it a little bit extra. It was basically between a 4 and a 5. Yeah. In summary, with the gameplay, the combat was muddied down by basically every other aspect of the game, unfortunately. Like, if they took, like, what is it called? Tank controls? If they took these controls and, like, this combat and slotted it into, like, a better game, it wouldn't be that bad. It would be like a solid 7, maybe. Story. I was actually really into the story. Did you play the RE4 remake? Nope. I have only ever played and beaten Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil 8, and I played most of 4, like the original 4, but I never beat it. I actually plan on playing Resident Evil 1 through 3 originals not soon, after like I beat a couple more games, but so story. I actually enjoyed the story. I thought the story was pretty decent. up until the shit about the devil or whatever. Once they threw the devil shit in there, I was like, man, they really kind of ruined it for me. They could have done anything else, right? They could have just given devil like a different name, right? Like made up some fictional character. But they just said, you know what, devil. It's the devil. It's like, oh man, come on. Really just ruined it for me here. The fucking devil, man. I'm trying to think if there's a scenario here where Eileen not being written into the game, or maybe being written into the game differently, would have made for a better story or not. Like, I feel like they could have put Eileen just kind of like in certain scenarios, like, sure, maybe do like a couple escorts, but like don't do the whole second half of the game as escorts. That's terrible. I did enjoy reading like all like the little notes. I enjoyed all that little lore drop. The conclusion of the story and kind of seeing the full picture, I did enjoy that for the most part. I will, though, say one thing that really didn't make any fucking sense about the story is the fact that Henry, like, moved into this fucking place. Like, after apparently all this crazy shit has happened, they just, like, rented it out. And, like, if you read the notes, like, someone was in his apartment, okay? And they just disappeared, and then, like, Henry was like, hey, I'm just gonna live here. And they're like, yeah, sure, we'll put you in this room where this guy disappeared from. Like, did they disclose this to Henry? Did he know about this? Did they hide it from Henry? Like, why are they renting out rooms? Like, there's so many questions I have, but it'll never get explained. And that part kind of bothers me. This is Walter's world, and you're living in it. Pretty much. I would have liked to see maybe like a DLC or something, or like a expansion from like Walter's perspective. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to see more about Walter, low-key. Like, I actually am interested. I want to know, like, fuck, like, even if, like, we play out the murderers, I mean, that's a little crazy, but I want to see, like, the full build-up. Yeah, I'd rather actually just play as Walter, honestly. Watch some story videos, yeah. That all said, I'm torn between two ratings again for the story, because as much as I did enjoy the story, there was definite parts, Eileen, that I really didn't like. But, you know, the backstories of all the ghosts were pretty cool. I liked all that. I thought that was pretty neat. Yeah, we gotta go 7.5 with the story. $7.5 for the story. For a total of an average of 6. A 6 out of 10. That's what I give Silent Hill 4: The Room on the PlayStation 2. Yeah, I think that's it. Can finally never talk about this game, look at this game, think about this game ever again. You know what's really sad about that, though? That score. I think that's a better score than I gave Gollum. Yeah, it is. It's better than Gollum. I would have preferred a 5, but that'll do. Hey, that's just how she goes. That's just how she goes. I liked what I liked.